Jove, welcome to Code Ready, Jove. Could you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi everyone, I'm Jove. Originally it was Java Lover back when Java was very popular over 20 years ago, but of course times have changed. Hello everyone, I'm Jove. I'm in Vancouver. For the past 6 months or so, I've been working at an AI company called Cresta as an FDE, and that's the topic we will discuss today. Before that, I had my own startup for 4 or 5 years working on databases. And before that, I worked at big companies like Splunk and EMC doing management and IC roles. Of course, now I still enjoy being an AI engine FDE more. Yes, thank you for the invitation. And I'm very happy to talk with everyone about what being an FDE means in the AI era.
Yes, I was actually quite surprised. I started to understand FDE more from the time Palantir's stock rose, and now many people in VC and AI circles say that FDE might be one of the most needed and promising positions in AI. This includes OpenAI and Anthropic, which are also hiring many FDEs. However, when I organize events, every time I mention FDE, many people don't know what it is, especially those from big companies like Meta and Google. They ask what FDE is. I'm quite surprised. It seems there's a gap in understanding. So we invited you. How many FDEs do you have under you now?
30 people, but I estimate it can reach 100 this year.
Right? This is a huge demand, isn't it? Particularly lacking now?
Yes, because I think information asymmetry might be a good thing. If you can see a trend early, before everyone does it, if you start early, you might accumulate a lot of experience. Just like those who started with LLM early on, later on, everyone else might just be followers. Yes, I think big companies, of course, like OpenAI, Anthropic, Databricks, many companies you can hear of, including Salesforce, have FDE. And even at Meta, actually, I've talked with insiders at Meta, they might have an internal FDE model. So this term has been around for over 10 years, and Palantir made it popular. Many people are envious of Palantir's success with its market value soaring like this. However, it's actually difficult to prove what percentage of success FDE contributes to, and it might not be more than 10%, possibly a very small proportion. But many people can't surpass Palantir's military background or those mysterious aspects, where FDE seems like something to emulate. So part of the reason is that people want success and might think FDE is a shortcut. But indeed, because I've been here for 7 or 8 months at Cresta, we have personally felt that FDE is truly a very effective way to implement AI, to make people spend money, to make people change. It's really a way to make a difference in the world, yes.
Well, let's first have you briefly introduce what FDE is for those who haven't heard of this term.
Yes.
Starting with the abbreviation of this term from full deploy engineer, its characteristic is that it is still an engineer and then it is fully deployed into some projects. Personally, I think FDE must be placed within the framework of an AI agent. Otherwise, if this is more traditional data, such as performing data ETL, data transformation, or network setup, I think it's actually difficult to distinguish FDE from traditional on-site engineers or outsourcing or consulting.
I think FDE, especially on the front in the context of Palantir or our current AI background. Sorry, someone is calling. I'll put the dog away. Sorry.
I continue. Can you edit, right? So from the previous sentence to under the AI context, yes, just after saying that doing data or doing security, FDE is not very meaningful. I'll continue from there. Yes, so I think that in the context of full deploy engineer, it must be tied to a context, meaning that many people now want AI agents, and you can access relatively new models. You can use new speech models like Amazon Labs and DeepGram, but you may not necessarily have the ability to create an AI agent that fits your desired business scenario. So the role of FDE is that it can integrate with your business logic, combine all the functions on your AI agent platform, and create an AI system that meets your specific needs along with various guardrails and test evaluations. Because this part is very difficult for the client to build on their own in a short time. Often the client may have their own engineering team who knows how to build a traditional website or mobile app, but building an AI agent is actually creating a new interface for their end users to use. Then building such an AI agent will encounter various issues like handling hallucinations and how to make your RAG or KB low latency and accurate. There are actually many difficult things in between, and these things are not very obvious for every airline or bank to do on their own. So the reason AI companies like us adopt a model like FDE is to allow AI experts to clearly understand what the platform offers and what the customer wants, and then create it, refining it meticulously, rather than forcing the customer to learn it themselves. Because even if they could learn, it might take 6 months to a year, by which time your competitors might have already taken the lead. Therefore, FDE can make the implementation of this AI more reliable and faster, allowing everyone to focus on their respective areas of expertise.
So the AI agent, FDE you mentioned, and the previous FDE are two different things. And the previous FDE isn't much different from outsourced workplace engineers. But the AI agent, FDE, is a new species. And this new species the advantage of this FDE over other engineers is that they are particularly AI native, and they truly understand the various pitfalls encountered in making AI products. Right, and not just, I posted some data saying that to use AI. Well, the key is in the verbs, not the nouns. The nouns, like model access and those features, everyone has them. But the issue is that if you really want to do it well, there's actually a big gap, and you people know how to really make things work well.
Yes, and we are willing and able to provide close service to our clients. We have a saying, you can talk about API over APA. You can quickly establish such a relationship with the client, and then you can earn their trust, whether it's the CEO, CTO, Adopa, or their API lead. Everyone is an engineer, and they all share a common language. Is that you can understand the features they want, your limitations, and you can help them create a highly reliable and effective AI agent.
It sounds like, how should I say it? The skill requirements are particularly high because this person needs to be especially knowledgeable about AI, which is already quite rare. I think many companies lack such talent. And it seems they also need certain interpersonal communication skills or interpersonal skills to gain users' trust. And then you also need to understand the user's business, right?
You need to adapt to the business.
Right. So it's like we've hired a group of startup CTOs, or rather some more well-rounded individuals who can clearly understand the situation, know where to focus efforts and where to even say no, then use their AI skills to implement it. Of course, we will encounter some tech-savvy clients who might ask very detailed questions, and many times you might need to teach them how to use it. But there are also many, for example, those in healthcare or those who are more in hotel or cruise. They actually don't care much about how you implement it, but they care about the overall brand image, how you should speak, how you should access their knowledge base, SOP. Here they have very even picky plans, and if you rashly let an engineer handle these things, you don't have a lot of time to build trust and explain these standard operating procedures in detail, so it's very difficult to come up with a solution that convinces him. Therefore, FDE is indeed a mixed role. It involves both technical aspects and AI agent aspects, and the person needs to be charming, able to interact with people easily, resolve conflicts, multitask, and even work overtime and travel. So altogether, it is a challenging role, but it also enables the AI agent to implement a very effective solution.
How do you recruit such people? And it seems very difficult to find them. I know that companies like OpenAI hire those who are failed founders, which is actually quite suitable, especially those who have failed in AI startups.
Yeah, I might also belong to this category because I myself, working at a big company is boring. For example, when at Splunk, I might manage 50 people. Maybe in Canada, in the United States, and India, there are teams and a senior manager reports to me, but I couldn't stay idle and started my own business, focusing on more hardcore areas like real-time data pipelines or streaming databases. I did that for 4 or 5 years. And of course, technically it's very interesting, but compared to AI, it could be considered a direction that doesn't grow much. So I can also consider myself a somewhat failed or slightly unsuccessful entrepreneur. But after going through this, after a year for these entrepreneurial experiences, you will know that nothing is easy. You need to earn your credit, earn this trust, and make some hard decisions. When all these are combined, it allows these FDEs, including myself, to know how much effort is needed to accomplish this task. Yes, and we will have less of the effort like GTM, just assuming this deal has the potential to succeed. We focus more on making it happen. Yes.
It also saves that very difficult step. But it's suitable for those who don't just want to do technology, but have a comprehensive ability or can perform comprehensively.
Yes, and it's mutual. When we recruit, if you've done a startup, whether as a co-founder or a founding engineer, it's actually a plus for me because I know you won't just be comfortable with others assigning tasks to you. Often you have this agency, right? You can figure out what you should do and sometimes even handle some of the dirty and tiring work. On the other hand, I have some team members who say, eventually I want to start a business. They enjoy being an FDE because it allows them to experience many things, not only the best architecture, but also understanding the customer's business needs. They learn which points in the process are prone to errors, how to convince customers, and how to win their trust. For them, it's like a training camp for becoming a CTO or starting a business.
Indeed, previously some programmers transitioned to product managers for startups, which I always felt didn't make much sense. But if they become full stack developers, it's very suitable.
Yes, product management might be a tricky solution now because often people think that many of your ideas are also what engineers have. So product managers will spend a lot of time communicating with customers, but often if you can remove a layer and the founding development engineer communicates directly with the customer, it's actually easier to know what the customer cares about.
So your FDE actually takes on many responsibilities of a PM.
It's like this for engineers, but again, everyone's bandwidth is limited. So I think it's partially inspired by Palantir. You might know they actually have 2 teams. It seems one is called Delta and the other is called something else, where some people are more engineer oriented for deployment and others are more process or strategist oriented for deployment. So at Crosstop, our approach is the same, meaning I lead this FDE team, but there is another team for deploy, which is a product engineer team. And then they don't need to be that technical, but they are just like a company having a CEO or CTO. They are all very capable of convincing clients to do the right thing, but they care more about business logic, your exit criteria, your risks, and your schedule. And then, of course, sometimes when we have meetings with some clients, they themselves are not well aligned on what they want, and their standard operating procedures are different in everyone's mind. If you have the field deployment engineer attend every meeting for these issues, it might not be the best use of their time. So the project manager will handle some non-technical tasks and sort things out.
So it sounds like there are 2 types of people who can switch to FDE and FD for deployment PPM, FDT. So PMs switch to FTP, engineers switch to FT, FDE. Besides engineers switching to FDE, have you seen others? Or are they basically all engineers?
Yes, I think being an engineer is a big prerequisite because even in my interviews here, despite some complaints, I still have a part where you write some simple Python programs without using any AI to prove you still have that engineering sense, right? Like naming your variables, your process.
So simple.
Yes, that's not Visual Studio Code. It's just a very simple proof that you can write some programs. Then we have another round of interviews to see your understanding of engineering best practices. Like if you know about unit tests, end-to-end testing, and have concepts like layering. Because frankly, sometimes if someone with no technical background does AI's field development engineering, it might seem to work, but they might make some blunders because they aren't aware of what could be problematic. For example, I'm not pointing at anyone, but suppose you're creating a login interface. You might make it seem like it can log in, but if everything is stuffed on the front end, users can easily delete or modify a DOM element to see a lot of your stuff. If you lack engineering literacy, many things may seem to work, but actually lack some best practices. So we still want to hire engineers. That's a baseline. And on top of that, if someone has done some consulting like at Accenture or McKinsey, that's quite good. but they might have another tendency, which is that I need to be very careful not to let them judge too much based on past methods, like how big the deal size is, or even if I should count by time, because we are still primarily a SaaS company. So FDE, one of our main responsibilities is to develop this AI agent, but we are essentially deployed product engineers, part of the product engineering team. So a significant responsibility of ours is to prove that our product has achieved product market fit by developing these agents. Along the way, there might be some bugs, some gaps, and some things done incorrectly, and we need to fix those parts. So we often need FDE to modify the platform's REST API, microservices, UI, COI, and documentation, because we have this responsibility not only to make each deployment successful, but also to make our product more mature. Yes.
In your case, some audience members didn't understand that you not only help clients solve problems on site, but also come back to improve your own product.
Yes, we are part of the product engineering organization. So my pairs are, for example, if you are doing microservices or working on Kubernetes infrastructure, they are all my pairs. We all report to the vice president of engineering, and the vice president of engineering reports to the CEO. It's that simple. So I know that in some companies, FDE is placed under customer success or professional service, or even pre-sales in some cases. But the reason we haven't done that is because we ultimately want to be a platform company where we hope to have a platform like this AI agent that can enable many different use cases. That just means letting users learn this platform themselves, how to develop and avoid hallucination, which is actually quite a long road. Many people talk about time to value, needing 1 or 2 months to come up with a new AI agent solution to reduce customer waiting time or to minimize transfers to solve problems. Asking customers to learn is a big ask, and what they want is the outcomes. So using full stack development engineers can quickly implement it. However, we also don't want to develop ourselves into a consulting firm, employing many full-time developer engineers to do these things. So ultimately, we hope that the work full-time developer engineers do becomes increasingly challenging. Automate these simple tasks so that after the platform improves, the field development engineer can become an expert in a certain field, such as a payment expert, network expert, or retrieval augmented generation expert. In this way, some relatively simple use cases can be easily achieved on our platform, whether through templates or assets.
Understood. This touches on why FD is so important in the AR era. And the reason I am also very optimistic about FDE is because AI's capabilities are now very strong. However, when it comes to implementation, most people actually lack the ability to implement, especially in more traditional industries. Well, not necessarily more traditional, but many traditional industries really need to use AI, yet they completely lack the talent to effectively implement AI in their industries. At this time, using people to turn an uncertainty into a certainty, this uncertainty is for the business owner on the other side. For example, if I am someone who sells posters, this example seems to be about a restaurant, right? And the article written by Brother Ya mentions the restaurant example. I'm a restaurant owner and I want to use AI. After studying for a long time, I still don't know if I can do it well, and many people might mess it up. At this point, an FDE says, no problem, use our platform and I'll help you get everything sorted out. This actually makes the implementation much simpler, right? It's whether you really got it done and how much it's worth to me once you have, then I can use it. And actually, Sequoia or many companies' analysis says that the software market isn't that large, but the entire labor market is huge. Then AI replaces this labor market. And for AI to replace the labor market, it actually requires some of these FDEs who understand both AI and business to really do it well. This is my understanding. You can first tell me if I'm right and then share your thoughts.
Yes, I think that's absolutely correct. It's like asking a restaurant, whether it's the owner or the IT team hired by the restaurant, to understand many details within AI engines. For example, there's a term called VAD, which is voice activity detection. It basically means that when I'm speaking, you can respond, but I shouldn't stop, right? Because there are many detailed parts in between. Or when you are reporting a number or an email, you might have pauses in between, but pauses do not mean the other party should interrupt, including if there is some noise or the like. Actually, there are many, many details here. Just the VAD itself has different approaches. For example, whether it's based on silence, or based on language models, or based on semantics. Having a restaurant's IT staff learn all these things is too much.
Actually, you only focus on saying that your brand hopes to be more.
Whether you lean towards 20-year-olds or more mature and steady individuals, and how you introduce your dishes, how you secure some spots for VIPs, there are many special business aspects here. You shouldn't overly focus on these technical details, which you might approximate through some open source software, but trying each one is actually very labor intensive. So FDE can quickly apply some best practices, select the best things, and make it work. Moreover, we can often handle several similar cases. So today I might do a dumpling restaurant for you, and tomorrow a Western restaurant, but we might have some industry know-how, like understanding table turnover rates or how to politely refuse customers. In the end, we might even know more about restaurants than the restaurants themselves.
So if you hire such an expert, it will be faster and more efficient for implementation.
Then talk about how these traditional industries are using AI. It's not just FDE. What exactly is your whole company doing, and what gap do you see? How big do you think the opportunity is here?
Yes, let's do a little advertisement. Cresta was founded in 2017, so it's been almost 9 years. We've always been focused on customer experience, and a big part of that is the call center segment. For example, there used to be human customer service, and of course there still is now. However, human customer service involves a lot of new employee training. You need to teach them what to say, and then when a call comes in, you need to make some appropriate disclosures, such as saying that the call is being recorded, or when the call is transferred, you might want to access some past history. There are many tasks in the middle that AI can assist with, making the human agent more efficient. What we are doing now is more about using AI well on these spaces. So not every case requires a human to respond, right? You can save on some manpower, and you can reduce a lot of effort in hiring, firing, and training. For example, during peak periods like Black Friday in the United States or Canada, you might need to temporarily hire many people. And then after the peak period is over, you have to let them go. Moreover, not many people truly enjoy taking on the role of a human agent. So the turnover rate in this industry is actually quite high. But if one day, for example, you lose a credit card and want to call to have a replacement sent, this can be completely handled by AI. So what we do is identify which parts can be completed by AI for such a use case, and which parts we continue to use humans for.
So we are in a position, a unified platform of human and AI.
And we already have large clients like Marriott United, who have used our product for many years, specifically for their call center and human agents. Now they can use another product more, making upselling possibly easier. So they can select some high frequency use cases and let the human AI agent handle them. So my team currently has 30 people, and later it might become 50 people or 100 people worldwide. Of course, we are currently focused on North America, but we are now recruiting in Europe and Asia Pacific as well to replicate this model and enable more calls and chats to be handled by AI, making the experience faster. After all, no one wants to make a call and then wait half an hour listening to music, as these experiences are quite poor. Or it might happen that you need to make a call and you have two purposes, but for the second purpose, you have to be transferred again and wait another half hour. These are things that hopefully AI can make the wait shorter or even eliminate the wait altogether.
Call centers replacing humans. I think, of course, it's a very obvious opportunity. Then I want to ask, in this context, what do you think, how should I say, is the ratio of needing FDEs to not needing FDEs? Some people lacking understanding of the business might think, oh, can I just make a product and give it directly to the restaurant or hotel owner and they can use it right away? But in reality, there are definitely various issues that prevent them from using it. Do you think this is something that will inevitably happen in the future, that when AI becomes smart enough, the boss can use it directly? Or is it destined to always have some problems that will always need someone to solve?
Yes, I think we technology providers can always find the point where there is a gap. For example, many people now complain that AI easily hallucinates, or if you create a RAG or KB yourself, it easily has high latency or gives irrelevant answers or is very verbose. In fact, many things don't have ready-made solutions, so we can create a solution that is closer to being ready. However, ultimately, the structure of your restaurant's menu and the type of customers you wish to attract, as well as your tone, still require some customization. Well, yeah, eventually we don't think there will be a day when everything is completely automated. There will always be some parts that require human judgment. It involves your brand, some of your unique aspects. So FDE at this point is more about implementing AI. And maybe in 3 to 5 years, we will have so-called A to A, agent to agent, where the language experience is no longer that important. At that time, it might be more about handling A to A matters. So I think the world is developing very quickly, but currently, at this point, voice AI has been proven to possibly be one of the top 3 best tracks. And then being able to use some AI. Otherwise, if you want to use these code generation or film creation, it might not be too ready, but everyone thinks voice AI or AI agent is a very obvious business. A demand is there. So we have a very good customer base and technology that is almost ready, and FDE plays the role of the last mile in it. But when this technology continues to evolve, we might work on something else like A to A or some embodied intelligence, which might require human intervention to complete the last mile for the AI.
Understood. Although the last mile seems far, it is actually a necessary step. You just mentioned the top 3. From your perspective, what do you think are the other top 2 applications?
Yes, one part is coding, right? So in this area, whether it's a Cursor, Cloud Code, Code XPI, they have actually done a lot of work. Another part might be multimedia, like music or documents, image or video generation. But of course, there are big companies putting in effort and spending a lot of money on this. However, coding might be a proven very good market. Astropay, we ourselves, our FDE, also belong to the category where coding tools can be used almost without limit. You can use them freely, even with a few thousand yuan, but this field is extremely competitive and it's rare to enter as a player. Also, image generation and video generation seem to work, but they actually require a lot of investment. Relatively speaking, Ajam Enterprise AI is something that if you ask 100 business owners, now probably more than 50% would want it. Why not? Because if AI can save labor, reduce customer wait times, and automate processes, it's obviously a great thing. And this technology is almost ready, not completely ready. So you might just need to find some suitable people, find a vendor, and then you can implement it.
There is a need for call centers, but I find it hard to imagine that a nearby restaurant would need this, right?
Yes. Actually, the call center is a field that is both old and mature. Questa, of course, does well in this area, but now we are increasingly encountering partners or direct clients who don't have a call center, but need an AI to serve as a so-called AI receptionist. When your customers or potential customers make a call, you don't need a human to answer every time. This AI can act like a receptionist, asking what you need, if it can help you schedule an appointment, who you want to talk to, what questions you have, and if it can send a text or summary to the owner. As the first layer, see, having AI act as a receptionist is a very natural thing, whether it's for a dentist, a cafe, a flower shop, or even for personal use. Not everyone wants, perhaps many people want to talk to your class representative, but you might first let AI filter according to your logic as so important.
How much? If I want to buy it, how much will it cost? Will there be an FDE to support me?
Yes. This kind of thing falls under FDE, which can incorporate many best practices.
No, really, this is a real question. How much would it cost if I want to buy it?
Yes, we can discuss it like a few thousand yuan. Or based on usage, actually, it's very easy for us now to say outcome-based, like how much time we can save you, how many deals we can close, and then just charge a percentage.
It can be discussed. This is indeed a very important application, and I believe more people actually need it. And I know that in the country, many people are doing AI calls, which are more aggressive, like marketing, right? Calling one by one to ask if they want to buy something, with some scripts, selling insurance, and so on. Do you do this kind of thing, or do you think this is a legitimate opportunity?
We do, of course, what we actually call, there's a data called channel. Voice is a very important channel. And of course, other channels like chatbot is a text-based channel, or SMS, WhatsApp, email. These are all different channels. Of course, we are a multi-channel platform. So in some scenarios, some customers want to start with text first. If they find it troublesome, they want to switch to voice. Or if they need to step away, they can ask to be sent a text to continue the conversation later, even in a second. So technically, this is feasible. Then in terms of voice, it is divided into what is called inbound and outbound. Many times people call in, for example, entering a call center. We can answer the call and if needed, transfer it to a human or another system. Actually, outbound can also be done, but in North America, there are more regulations and what is called consent. For example, one use case is, I am a platform for dental appointments. Now my tooth hurts and I call and say, can I make an appointment? And the agent says, I can find a slot next Thursday. Would you like it? I say, it hurts a lot. Can it be earlier? They say, sorry, I don't have anything now. But if you agree, if someone cancels, can I call you? Then they say, of course. Once you have this consent, if someone cancels, for example, before Thursday, the AI can automatically transfer them over. In this case, the technology is actually similar. It's just that when a call comes in, you need to do some so-called speech recognition or some tasks. But here you have to be more careful. That is, for outbound calls, you must obtain some consent in advance. But from a technical standpoint, you need to you need to promote something. And even in some scenarios, you might do some payment collection. Of course, it's not about debt collection, but more about when some agreement has already been established. If you, for example, you defaulted, for example, if it's 1 or 2 months and the amount isn't very large, like you owe 500 or 600 yuan and haven't paid it back, this kind of situation was considered a bit of a hassle for banks. They didn't want to spend resources making these calls, and the success rate of these calls wasn't high. So this kind of situation was something they could just let slide. However, now that you have AI, now that things are different. If I can have AI remind him in a gentle way, not too pushy, and understand his concerns, then get him to pay a little. For example, if you owe him 600 yuan, you say, you're a bit tight on cash, can you pay 200? Then even 200 yuan is something. And what you ultimately pay is just the cost of those LLM tokens. So it's easy to calculate this account. So if there was some agreement before, like if you use this bank services, the terms would include that in certain situations, the bank can call you. In fact, that's how it is. You would have some person call you, and now it's just AI calling you. So these cases are still quite common in North America, like in payment collection or some rescheduling. Of course, if you talk about places like Myanmar, they might have some kind of WeChat using the best technology because their return might be higher. But for us, the technology is actually similar. Yes.
Okay, let me explain the logic behind my question, and then I'll bring up my next question. Earlier, we talked about what FDE is, and then we discussed the fundamental reason for FDE's existence, which is what value this AI actually brings to these industries. We have some very specific examples, and we also found that many people in the community have realized he knows he wants to do AI. He shouldn't start a tech venture like a coding agent, right? He should focus on a vertical industry, for example, in law or helping restaurants or real estate and so on. Then they will realize, I do have the technology, but the other party indeed doesn't buy it because they don't understand the technology. So FDE sounds like a relatively good solution here. Do you think so? Do you think this logic holds? That is, students who understand technology should perfect their technology and then either become an FDE themselves, hire an FDE, or collaborate with an FDE to truly implement this technology in those traditional fields? Or is it not yet at that stage?
So, what does not at this level mean? It means that for those traditional industries, actually, these AI are just pseudo demands. Like, I actually don't need them, right?
Yes, this is actually quite tricky and also related to everyone's position. Because I have done startups before, I know how difficult it is to get onto the vendor list of some big companies. It might take 1 or 2 years, and you have to prove not only your product. For example, what I did before was PM streaming. I might be compared to open source projects, and machine resources are halved or it's 4 to 5 times faster. So what? But because you are a startup, your funding is limited, your growth history is limited, and even your GitHub is limited, it's very hard to win trust. So if you still want to work independently, just saying you go from being someone who writes code, writes a library, writes a component, writes a web coding system, to wanting to become I from an FDE perspective, but still an OPC, it's actually very difficult because this trust is very hard to earn. The reason we are able to securing deals with some very large hotels and banks is because we've been there long enough, have a good reputation, and have done a lot of work to ensure your data is compliant there. Then, on this basis, pushing an AI agent in a relatively gentle and complementary way makes it easier to succeed. But if you are a company that has only been established for a few weeks and you claim to have great technology, people are not willing to bet their careers on you, because we have actually experienced several instances where a CEO or CTO endorsed Cresta with their career, making Cresta a very important part of their AI transformation. If Cresta ultimately fails, then his entire initiative will fall apart. So this layer of trust is actually very difficult to establish. So I agree that FDE is a great way to combine one's technical background with real business needs. However, I'm also very lucky because I only need to focus on doing a good job with the AI agent. I don't have to worry too much about fundraising or marketing awareness, as these are handled by others in the company. But ultimately, to succeed, every aspect is necessary.
Okay, I think you explained it well. What people might see is the implementation of technology, but the trust issue behind the implementation is harder to solve and requires long-term accumulation. I think we've covered enough about FDE. What I want to ask next is, what kind of students are suitable for FDE, and what is the day-to-day like for an FDE? What is the profile of the person you are hiring? Of course, do you think there is anything else to add about the FDE role itself or the opportunities for AI implementation?
Yes, I'll give a relatively emotional example. I'm not sure if it's accurate, but it's like saying FDE is like a barista, right? You can buy an expensive Italian La Marzocco coffee machine for thousands of dollars, but even after setting it up, you might not be able to make great coffee. Even if you buy good beans, you might not have the skill. Ultimately, whether it's the customer or not, what they want is an outcome, a good experience with an AI agent. Some people might think, hey, at worst, I can buy a coffee machine myself, buy beans, buy a grinder, and practice my latte art skills or milk frothing techniques. This might work, but it will take a lot of time and carries a lot of risk. If your goal is to have a great conversation with your close friends in a comfortable cafe while enjoying a nice cup of coffee, you might just go to a place like Brew Bottle or some other shop. The role of FDE is actually like this. And as I say, using good raw materials, high quality beans, and a complex machine, along with excellent skills. Yeah, you might even chat with him, observe his mood, whether he's feeling down or high today, and then make a special coffee for him, which makes him feel great. In a similar way, like what people call omakase, a Japanese restaurant where you don't even need to ask what's on the menu today. You just have to trust us, and we will definitely use the best techniques and ingredients to give you a great experience. Because in the end, these ingredients like coffee beans or fish correspond to models in our AI field. These models are actually not that hard to obtain, but sometimes you might encounter something a bit tricky, like Surface. Some of the best models are said to be used by only a few people because they are really amazing. I don't know if that's true, but in most cases, if you're willing to spend money, you can access some of the best models. But so what? You might not necessarily know how to use the model. A simple example, for instance, if you have a relatively complex mapping relationship, should you write it as a markdown table or as a bunch of bullet points, which is more efficient? Of course, you might save tokens on one hand, but which execution is more prone to errors? Actually, for us, we find that with GPT, for example, versions 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4 are all different. So there are many details here, and FDE has enough time to understand some of these AI best practices, and at the same time, you can easily observing and understanding others, having a good relationship with clients, some personal connections, and being willing to try new approaches together, even if mistakes are made. There is room for adjustments. Because AI itself is a bunch of probabilistic issues, it's hard to ensure it's always correct. When mistakes happen, how can you fix them promptly without hurting the relationship? FDE actually has a strong personal charm or relationship aspect, and of course, your technical skills must be very solid.
Yes, this identity is very important. The concretization of this trust actually falls on people, not on something abstract. So the relationships between people are very important here. And I really resonate with what you said about doing well, like routing resolve, right? These two simple words, if you want to do them well, it's about when to tell this skill to the model and how to let it know to use the correct context at the right time. This kind of thing is particularly difficult. That's why I wrote that article about the difference between nouns and verbs. Verbs are actually infinitely profound. If you delve into them, you'll find there's so much there. Nouns are very limited. You can basically learn a noun in 10 minutes, but truly doing well lies in the verbs. The problem is that with verbs, if you don't learn, you don't know. And if you don't do, you don't know. And it's also hard to imagine. You hear a noun, a new model, and then you say, oh, I have it or I don't. It's hard to imagine in your mind. But when you say this person's routing is done well, that person's routing is not done well, you have no way to imagine how deep the skill difference is.
Yes, that's right. We really encountered many strange things, some of which can be talked about, some cannot. But truly, if you are open-minded and willing to understand how the world works, because actually, as an individual, it's hard to say you change jobs 3 times a year, going to different restaurants or travel companies to work. However, because we often do many projects in a year, and each project is very interesting. For example, let's say we are doing a dental project. You might find that some people have already lost their teeth, and their pronunciation can be quite strange. How can you tune your model to recognize certain words? It's not very difficult, but if you don't know, you just don't know, right? But after we've done it a few times, we know, hey, we have some flags specifically set for these scenarios. Yes.
Interesting. If possible, we can invite you to do a live stream on Superlinear and share these stories with everyone. Our restaurant has a bunch of strange stories. The hotel has a bunch of strange stories, and the dentist has a bunch of strange stories.
Yes, and another good thing is that because I worked for many years at IBM, EMC, and in enterprise software, people would find that, hey, this thing should not be changed as long as it doesn't break, right? This is a very common thing, especially with on-premise. Then, now that we are working on AI agents, I actually think this is a good thing for us. It's like if you don't change, your model might become unusable or your API might not work. So this world is changing very quickly. It needs to constantly engage FDE to use, let's say you originally used 4.1. Now you can't use 4.1 anymore. You must use 5.x. Then you need to, whether you are as a 20% of a PSV or as a new use case, a new SOW, you need to continuously engage, use the best model or the right model and keep improving this rather than a one-time deal, right?
This point is very important, very important. I hadn't thought about it this way before, but yeah, everything before was just put there and everyone got used to it, so it became fixed. Even if there are many bugs, often no one will push for change. Everyone is suffering here, but it remains an old, legacy, prehistoric, and problematic thing that won't be changed. But now, because the model changes so quickly, right? And cost and everything else change very quickly too. So it keeps refreshing. This is very interesting.
Yes. This pushes everyone to use this so-called AI subscription model, which might be very welcome for you and the company. But because the customer uses the model, we even do not provide any on-premise deployment. Only SaaS can be used. Plus, this SaaS will use, for example, the best voice engine or whatever models. So it naturally becomes an AI where the customer won't constantly ask, when can I install it on my side so I can get rid of you? They won't because they can't get rid of us quickly.
I think Mike should have followed this model from the start. Let's not talk about that. Let's go back to the last question, which is, what is the day-to-day like for FDE, and what kind of talent profile are you looking for in the people you hire?
Yes, I am, of course, promoting myself a bit, like on LinkedIn, or I also have a podcast where I interview some FDE professionals, because if I don't have enough external interview opportunities, I think I can just interview internally. For example, I currently have 30 people, and one interview would be enough for many episodes. Yes, everyone can have this understanding, which is that FDE itself requires people with a high level of proactive agency. So at this point, I am not comfortable hiring juniors. Therefore, FDE needs to have worked for more than 3 years and be a good engineer. If they have been a founder, co-founder, or founding engineer of their own company, that's great. If you have done consulting or some customer-facing work, then you should have no problem with winning trust in customer commissioning and negotiation. On the other hand, they need to have worked on AI agents, because this is actually an area I'm quite concerned about. I can easily come across a lot of resumes where people write, I am an AI engineer, I can use cloud code, I can use codecs. Isn't that obvious? At this point, any engineer who can't use cloud code is like someone who can't type. It just doesn't make sense. You must be able to work on AI agents for it to be meaningful.
That's the same as being proficient in Excel on a resume.
Yes. Right. So we need, you see, you might have, for example, worked on some AI agents, whether open source ones like LangChain, some Co-AI, or you have done some RAG. Of course, like if you've done some voice-related work, you'll be more ready. In that case, like if we're quick, you might be fully deployed somewhere by the 2nd or 3rd week. So in our recruitment, we place more emphasis on their seniority. And then, yes.
There is a question about the 6 levels of AI products I wrote in the knowledge bank. I mean, you use AI to create a product unrelated to AI. I mean, you use AI and there are 6 levels of AI products. Have you read that article?
You can refer to it. I should have roughly looked at it. Probably, yes.
Right. Let me read it to you, which is the first is the LLM wrapper. It is in the knowledge banks first. Currently, the first one is the prompt wrapper, and the second is grounded AI, which is AI applications with knowledge. The third is two using AI applications that can adjust tools. The fourth is LLM workflow, AI in fixed processes. Then the fifth one is authentic core, which means having an intelligent core where AI can plan, act, observe, update state, continue, stop, decide the next step, and execute in a loop. The sixth one is called AI native product system, whatever, meaning AI can have low friction interaction, context, proper memory, permission, proactive trigger evaluation, got real runtime. That's how it's divided.
Right, for our current projects or the candidates I'm considering, reaching about level 4 is sufficient. Because when it comes to voice AI, especially in a customer service context, you don't necessarily need the AI to conduct a lot of research or make many proposals. Like, I have 3 solutions. Which one do you think is suitable? Often it's just about processing refunds or issuing refunds, right? You can't ask the customer, actually, is it right for me to do this? Should I give you a 50% refund or a 30% refund? So we actually need to clearly know how to use these knowledge bases and standard operating procedures, then have low latency, and you need to make some tool calls. So maybe at level 4, it fits us better. Of course, we have some other products in cluster that involve in-depth research where you might enable a manager to pull out a 100-page PDF with many charts through a simple question showing areas for improvement. But for voice AI, we mostly just need to see the 4th level.
Our AI Builders course teaches up to the 4th level, and the AI Architect course teaches up to the 6th level.
If you have time, you can take a look at the projects in the community, especially those in the AI Architect course. I think most of the projects there are quite, at least they can run through the process. The details definitely need optimization, but at least it's not just using codecs and that's it. It truly integrates an authentic system, or at least an authentic API or tools and knowledge into the AI, allowing the AI to play a relatively central role within it.
Right. So going back to recruitment, it's about how much time you work and whether you have agents, not just using AI, but also agent building and even testing. Actually, another big topic is test evaluation. And because Brother Key himself has done some A/B testing before, this field is actually quite complex, which greatly affects whether your product can be enterprise level, making a big difference. Yes.
Yes, eval is another topic. We can talk more about it if we have the chance. I think the word eval is very convoluted, with too many people having mixed interpretations of it. Yes, we can talk more about it if we have the chance. Oh, yes, it's important to use AI well, and having experience and agency is very important. Nothing else, just the image.
Yes, and then your communication skills, your engagement with clients, how you win trust, how you solve conflicts, how you drive things. These actually just like, of course, very few people would interview a CTO, but I can imagine these are actually some comprehensive points that can prove you are not just a good coder or programmer, which is actually not important anymore. It's more about knowing how to make things happen in a technical way. Yes, so here we will have many rounds of interviews. Some are more technical, some are more behavioral or related to coordination with our FDPM. Also, these will be considered, including which a possible segment where you can freely use Cloud Code or Cursor to create an agent within 90 minutes based on some APIs and knowledge base we provide, and prove that it is of high quality. How you set up your test evaluation and even handle some edge cases allows us to see your familiarity in this area more concretely, rather than just hearsay or doing some toy projects.
Based on your experience, this is a follow-up question. Winning trust is particularly important, but many people either can or cannot do it. I'm trying to get you to summarize. What kind of person do you think is technically competent but finds it difficult to win trust? And what traits do you think those who can win trust have?
Yes, this is a somewhat subjective topic.
Yes, this might be a rather subjective topic. If someone has experienced many failures, to me, that's actually a good thing. If they can share some of their lessons learned, in which situations is it that speaking too much leads to mistakes, or jumping to conclusions too early can lose some trust, or can he perceive many motivations from the client's perspective, some obvious, some not obvious? Then approach your proposal from a good angle, being able to stand in their shoes, even letting them present the plan, rather than forcibly saying no or pushing it. There are actually many detailed aspects in between, which is why if people have had some co-founder or founder experience, there will be more training here. Of course, people with consulting backgrounds have also undergone very good systematic training, which is something I am quite pleased to see. However, there are still many people who are indeed exceptionally talented. They are naturally able to learn many things smartly, grasping which signals are false, which are genuine needs, and which are things the other party is too embarrassed to say during communication. They can find a good angle to plant their idea and let the other person express it. But ultimately, it's quite an interesting point, as there is no very objective way.
The later videos on influence without authority teach how to do it by asking questions, and then there's listen for, comprehension, appreciation, and empathy, and then finally evaluate, right? These are some specific methods, and from what I just heard, or rather from an idea I had before, the person who can truly gain the other's trust, first is willing to listen and can think from the other person's perspective. Secondly, their ego in this is relatively large, meaning they will do what they can and won't do what they can't, aiming to get the job done well. If the other person senses that you care a lot about your own ego or whether you are right, but not about the matter itself, they will tend not to trust you. Of course, being technically solid is also very important. You can't actually know nothing or have significant knowledge gaps. That won't work either.
Yes, so everyone is welcome to listen to the class representatives' lessons. I think they make a lot of sense. Some things are very obvious, like if I have an interview and I ask a question and the other person gives me a 6-minute or 10-minute answer, that's basically a red flag. If you don't have proper communication, you don't know the strength of the information. How can you elicit some echo from the other party? Sometimes listing 10 points is not as effective as mentioning, 2 or 3. Many things are actually common sense, but if everyone is too obsessed with pouring out everything they think, this itself is not a very good signal for FDE.
Yes, specifically, we also invite you to share more in this community later. Yes, I think these skills, whether or not everyone wants to be an FDE, they are actually very important. It's just that in the division of labor in large companies, sometimes you don't need to deal with those complexities, and then you can seemingly do well even without these skills. But I feel that the times are increasingly not like this era. So whether or not to do FDE, these things are quite important, and I really hope you have the opportunity to come and share.
Yes, especially since everyone might have some concerns now, like as a pure front end, pure back end, or even a full stack, whether you have a few months or a few years before being replaced by AI. In that case, I think FDE is a kind of a harbor, a safe haven, because this involves many, many people's roles. Yes, it's hard to be replaced by AI, right?
Yes, a very good transition. On one hand, it involves dealing with people, and on the other hand, as I often emphasize in the video, in the past we relied on a skill, and with that skill you could advance. Now that's not possible anymore. This skill has been largely replaced, but you can be responsible for the outcome as long as you can The closer you get to the results, the harder it is to be replaced, because in the end, AI cannot take responsibility for these results. It can be changed with a different prompt to say something else, but it still requires a person to take responsibility for the results.
Yes, exactly. In the end, we need people who can make good decisions and work smoothly with clients to get things done. Ultimately, it doesn't matter whether it's your plan or theirs, as long as it gets done. You shouldn't have a strong ego.
Thank you. We talked about a lot today. Do you think there's anything I haven't asked that you'd like to share with everyone?
Yes, I think there might be another topic we can briefly discuss because well, we also have some friends or audience members in China, and in China, whether it's King Day or many companies actually have a lot of concerns about these the FDE model. Of course, domestically, they are also very willing to, for example, if there is a way to copy something and definitely succeed like Planty, they would all copy it. However, domestically, labor might not be that expensive, and perhaps the B2B market might be somewhat tricky. So I'm also in some domestic groups, and everyone is actually very much observing this area, whether it's being pessimistic or thinking, hey, we should reach the day of FDE, but it's still too early now, and so on. So my view is also that really, what is it called? It's very relevant where you plant this orange. In North America, because labor is already very expensive, and the demand for paying for results is relatively strong, and then your SaaS is also relatively mature. So when these things are combined, it makes the FDE model, especially in AI, easier to implement. But if it's about a data nurse, data cleaning, or something related to government affairs, that's very difficult. FDE is not suitable for such complex situations. That's way more than FDE can cover. So I also really sympathize with the industry professionals in China, just to say, I can only say that FDE is a relatively mature, effective solution in North America, but it's still hard to say in China, yes.
The truth is there are too many issues with SaaS in China. So many issues, and the most important one is that there is no enterprise market, no customers. In China, there aren't really any particularly large enterprises, or rather many large enterprises. All right, thank you very much. Let's wrap up our conversation here today. We hope that some of the topics discussed can be further explored in the community. You can post more, and if anyone is interested, join the group for live sessions or other topics. We invite you for more interviews.
Yeah, thank you, brother. And I wish everyone to ride the waves in the AI world, whether doing FDE or something else.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.